Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, or afternoon or morning, based on where you're watching us from. My name is David Swinson, and sharing the screen with me is Austin Hale. We are the co-founders of Financial Foundations of Virginia. Welcome to our first Town Hall Ask the Experts event. The reason we're all here tonight, trying to expand the reach of how we are providing services to the community, trying to do some live events to give people access to ask questions, get those questions answered. I can see viewers starting to trickle in. We had solicited some early questions to have people try to let us get a head start on what they may want to know. And one of the most common things, Austin, was how did Financial Foundations of Virginia come to be? And I guess more importantly, why does it need to be? And since ultimately this was originally your baby, I'm kind of going to kick that one to you.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, so I guess originally it started as a business idea um, because I guess I kind of felt that real estate closers and stuff were taking advantage of people by charging way too much for commissions and doing way too little work. And it turned out in my conversations with Dave that it wasn't just in the real estate business, it was kind of everywhere that we felt that consumers were not necessarily being taken advantage of. I don't know if that's really the most accurate way to put it. But we felt that there was a knowledge gap between basically when consumers try to go and purchase things. A lot of times they weren't getting the best rates. They didn't really understand it. They don't know about co-signing. Um, the fact that when I was talking with Dave, a lot of what you learn about personal finance kind of comes from your parents, and if your parents don't teach you about it, you kind of end up going through the school of hard knocks, and you're forced to learn about it when you're in a bad financial situation. So that's kind of where the idea came from. Dave and myself, we both have backgrounds in the consumer finance space. For me, over 10 years, Dave probably 20 or more. Um, and why does it need to exist? I think it needs to exist because financial literacy, if you look at it as a whole in the United States, our financial literacy rate is hovering around 49, 50% at best. And that's just not acceptable. So we're just trying to do the best we can to, spread a little bit of knowledge out there and help some people so they don't have to go through that school of hard knocks.
Yeah, I think one of the updates that recently got added to our website, the 2024 numbers were what, 48% financial
Yeah,
literacy,
40. Yep.
which was up
Hmm.
2% compared to last year.
Yep.
Uh, yeah, I think the huge, huge divide in what people think they know and what they actually know, especially when it comes to this topic. Um, I know I'll raise my hand and say guilty as a parent. I was giving you a little bit of grief about having young kids. I don't have young kids anymore. I've got grown kids, but definitely fell into the parental category of they'll figure it out like I figured it out. Didn't necessarily provide the groundwork, sit down and have those kind of conversations. Hindsight, probably not the greatest parenting decision that I've made, but I just know even me growing up, I don't remember having financial discussions with my parents. Um, the excuse me, sorry about that. Back in March, the CEO of a firm had posted for Financial Literacy Month that most people learn about finance when they have the S word moment, right? It's not taught in school. If it is, it's minimal at best. Parents don't think to teach it because they probably don't know it. So you don't bother to learn it or until you have to figure it out, and that usually comes from when something went wrong. Um, so yeah, I think why we're here is to help fill that gap and do it in a way that makes sense, right? We'll pull the curtain back. You're a lawyer. You're a smart guy. You speak in words and use things like Oxford commas that the average person probably doesn't understand. But you and your
Secured transactions.
right, you and your lawyer buddies definitely know how to speak that language. I think when it pertains to topics like credit or investing, it's usually information presented by people who went to school for accounting or are investment bankers. They speak in terms that other investment bankers or other accountants would understand. They don't speak in terms of what the everyman would understand. So even if you go out and you try to find information on these topics, it's not easily digestible. And that's one of the things you and I talked about in the very early days. How do we take complicated subject matter and make it so anybody could understand it?
Yeah, that's one of the things that we're trying to do. And one of the ways that we're doing that right now is through blog posts, believe it or not. Just trying to pump out some blog post content. We've got a few that are on how to build credit. That's one of the most viewed ones right now. We get a lot of hits on, because if you don't have credit, if you don't know where to start, having a blog such as that one that we're running right now might be something that you would want to look at.
Yeah, so we're up to what, close to 50 different blog posts on there.
Yeah, it's about 50, covering a lot of different topics. So not just credit, but things related to house buying, taxes, um, secured transactions.
So for anybody watching that hasn't been to the site yet, it's financialfoundationsofvirginia.org. Outside of the blog posts, there are also links to other free resources, either in the legal field or different government resources. One of the things, Austin, I know you're real proud of right now is the first of our free courses that's going to be hopefully going live here shortly.
Yeah, hopefully it's a 6-chapter course with about 3 lessons per chapter. So hopefully that goes live in the next couple weeks, just kind of covering the basics of everything.
All right. So it
Yeah.
looks like we had a question that we kind of answered right there. How is Financial Foundations of Virginia helping people? And right now, it is very much a digital footprint, right?
Hmm.
Trying to build out a free resource pool.
Yeah, and I think to go with that, one of the things that we uploaded recently was the free general durable power of attorney. So that's something that if you go to an attorney to get it done, it's going to cost you a few $100. But you can just go to our site and grab a template to kind of use and guide you. Always seek legal advice and everything like that. But it's something that could get you started in the right direction.
And you also added a free advance directive, also, correct?
I did, yeah, free advanced medical directive to cover those situations where your healthcare needs basically.
So I'm sure there are people going, okay, what does a general power of attorney and a advance directive have to do with a financial literacy charity? And I think that they're directly tied in our minds, but maybe easier to communicate is indirectly tied to the person that's listening, right? That what and again, do your disclaimer of always seek out from a professional legal advice. Even though you are a professional, you're not functioning as a lawyer in this capacity and you can't give legal advice in this forum. The general power of attorney, you have to be, there are times where you're going to assign the ability to someone else to act on your behalf. And that may
Hmm.
be with a general power of attorney, it's to do it in all things, right? So there is still a tie back to financial literacy, and it is a document that is needed by a lot of people, and because there is this tie to what we do,
Hmm.
making it available was important to you to have it out there.
Yeah, and not just making it available, but having people actually utilize it because a lot of times, what you'll see, at least in the legal profession, is somebody needs a general durable power of attorney before it's too late, right? So you have somebody, let's say, that's getting older, they've become incapacitated, they have all these financial assets, and you can't touch any of them because you don't have that power of attorney. So that's one of the reasons why you would want to probably get one. Um,
All right. Yeah, so I think one of the other things is events like this, right? That is there an appetite out there for the people that are going to the site? And we do know people are going to the site, right? The site has been up for a little over a year, and I think
Yeah.
we should this month cross 3,000 unique visitors to the site.
Yep.
So we know people are going. They're going to the blog posts. Uh, they're looking at the resources we're making available. Layering in something like this, which again, still a digital footprint given our age and our size, easier for you and I to get into a meet and go live on Facebook or on YouTube or wherever it is that we can and try to run an event that provides access to us, but we don't have to worry about the logistics of a physical building, trying to pay for meeting space, things like that, but it's still giving people the ability to come and kind of access us. So those are the ways right now I think that we're helping. There's also been partnerships, right? We very early on were blessed, I guess would be a good word, to have a meeting and get a partnership with the United Way of the Peninsula. Uh, Always good to have a existing organization see value in what we were bringing to the table and allow us to use their logo and reference them and them do the same for us. Uh, I think how we're helping right now is still part of it, figuring out how we can help. And feedback from the community, people that are watching this or see our page or go to the website, providing us any kind of feedback to let us know what you're looking for in help would be a great thing. So there's a question from us to you guys, is if you could please give us some kind of feedback. What are you looking for? What would you like to see out there? How can we service you? Let's
Yeah.
see.
So I guess jumping into, I guess a little bit more of the meat of it, we've kind of covered how we've gotten to this point. Dave, do you want to maybe give like an overview of credit? I think that's probably been one of our most asked about and covered topics.
Yeah, so I guess let's kind of dissect that. People use the term credit, and I think you're referencing personal credit, right? In that
Right.
particular case, uh, and credit's kind of a broad brush term, right? What's my personal credit? What's business credit? What is somebody extending me credit? In this case, we're talking about personal credit, credit score. Um, so here's the Dave a person answer. Your credit score is an arbitrary number calculated by one of the three major credit reporting agencies to communicate your value to lenders. And I call it an arbitrary score because it's proprietary math owned by the individual reporting agency that they will never communicate to you how they arrive at the number. But that number equals your worthiness to a lender. And right, wrong, or indifferent, regardless of my personal beliefs on how that number is arrived at, it is the number that people utilize to determine how much or how long somebody will lend you money, how much they're going to charge you for the privilege of using their money. Uh, we talk about a long day. I actually had new hire class today at your current employer, my previous employer. Um, and it was interesting. I was doing the you don't really know what you think you know portion of the class. And when I asked about the credit score, when I told him, no, each bureau has their own credit calculation and they all have multiple scores, he went, wait, there's not one credit. I don't have a credit score. There's not like a government central credit score.
Yeah.
And he's a younger guy, right? He's mid-20s. No, there's not a singular government regulated, your credit score is this, right? It's what do Experian, Equifax, or TransUnion, based on the information they have, report as your score. Yes, there's government oversight into what they can include in that calculation, but how it's calculated, it's on them.
Yep.
And they have multiple different scoring models, right? Equifax has 5 different scoring models. I think most people now, and I don't want to dog it, but you ask, especially young people, and I say that to a young guy sitting on the other side of the speed. Their point of reference for their credit score is Credit Karma, and Credit Karma is a tool provided by one, I think it's TransUnion that backs Credit Karma.
I think so.
Um,
Yeah.
but even that isn't a one-to-one relationship with TransUnion's primary score. It's still an estimation of what your credit score should be based on the information it has.
Right.
So yes, if you use Credit Karma, you're watching this and you use Credit Karma, it's a great tool to give you awareness of the range in which your credit score is probably falling. It is not your credit score.
Mm-hmm.
And the knowing about your credit score is important in the context of understanding what you should receive in terms of an approval from a bank or an interest rate on a credit card, any of that. But it's not a guarantee, because you have an idea of what your number is, that you're going to be able to forecast what the approval dollar amount is going to be, or what the interest rate that they're going to extend you is going to be, or what the term is going to be, or if they're even going to approve you at all, because more goes into underwriting than just the score. Right? There's an income to debt ratio workup. How much money do you have coming in versus what you have going out? You have companies that use subjective credit approval, not modeled, where a computer just looks at your information and spits out, but you actually have human underwriters that'll look at it, and they'll look at trade line by trade line. And when I say trade line, the different reporting lines. So if you have a car finance through Capital One and you have a credit card through Citibank, those are 2 individual trade lines, and they'll do trade line evaluations. And there's not as much emphasis on the score as there is the components of your actual credit, right? How long have you had an account?
Mm-hmm.
What's the pay history on that account?
How would somebody go and try to pull their actual credit report? We've talked about credit score, but how do you get your credit report?
So annually, you can request a free from each of the bureaus, and I think there are a couple different websites. I know you can go to
so the main one is annualcreditreport.com.
Yep. And then there is the mycreditreportcard.com will give you one. And you can go directly to all 3 bureaus also.
Mm-hmm.
Highly encourage anybody who hasn't, take advantage of that. Again, it's free. You get a free one every year. And at bare minimum, just to know what's on your credit report.
Yeah. And make sure you dispute anything that doesn't align with what you feel that you have. You know, if you see something on there from Capital One and you've never had a Capital One account, then that's something that you would probably want to look into and dispute, because it's bringing down your credit score most likely.
Yeah, most people don't steal identity and then make payments. Although that'd be great if I could find somebody to do that. Just so what's other good information that somebody might find if they requested a copy of their credit report?
I mean, yeah, like you said, the length of their accounts. One of the ways to actually raise your credit score is if your parent has a good credit history and they make you an authorized user on their credit card. Basically, what you'll see is you gain the benefit of their entire credit history. So if you have a parent that has an 800 credit score, they make you an authorized user at 18. Guess what? Now you have an 800 credit score. So there's little tips and tricks that kind of go along as you start to learn more about it, that can kind of help you financially. Obviously, a higher score, you'll get better rates and better terms if you choose to finance something. So that's just something that you would want to keep in mind.
Why? So I think what I just posed it from the standpoint of what you would get approved for in a dollar amount or the interest rate that you would pay. There's other impacts based on credit score that are out there, and there's a there's a whole generation, and when I say generation, I'm clearly a Gen Xer, you're a millennial, right? Your generation makes up the largest percentage of dollars in the marketplace right now. So you are the consumer, you and your generation. And generally, your generation has a negative perception to credit, right? All studies, all marketplace behavior says millennials not big fans of credit. And we could go into the reasons for that, but that's really not the topic. I think the point I want to make is that credit impacts more than just dollars in the marketplace. That whether again go to set aside personal feelings of how that number is arrived at or what its real value is, you have to have credit, especially in America, because America has a completely different viewpoint toward credit than the rest of the world, right? We are much freer. We leverage credit to make purchases more than the rest of the world does. Credit score has for a larger reach here than it does the rest of the world. Um, so regardless of whether or not you have a generation of people that believe credit is a good thing or a bad thing, the fact is that it is a part of life in America, and it impacts more than just how much you're going to pay for something. That you want to get an apartment, they're gonna check your credit. You you need to turn utilities on in that apartment. They're going to check your credit. There are certain jobs in this country
Mm-hmm.
that, and pick one that most people I don't necessarily know or would draw the correlation. You want to go work in a bank and be a bank teller. They're going to check your credit. Because again, right, wrong, or indifferent, if that number is too low, they believe you are potentially going to steal money from them. So they don't want to give you access to that money, right? If you're in the military and you want to get a certain security clearance, your credit impacts your ability to do that. So aside from the viewpoint of, oh, I'm just not going to buy stuff, I don't believe in credit, that's great. And more power to you if you can live your life like a one percenter and be cash flush and make every purchase that you ever want to with cash. You're still going to need credit and need to be mindful of credit if you ever want to own a home or get the job that you really want. And I don't think people completely understand the impact that their credit score has on their overall life. With me, and I'll see you next time.
Thanks.